Okay, will we make a start, everyone? You're very, very welcome. It's early morning, very, very early morning, midday, lunchtime, whatever time it is all around the world, you're extremely welcome to join us today. So with colleagues in UCAN, with Karma, with Balash, and then for today, Seamus, O'Toole and I will bring you through a workshop on the concept of learning cities and how the learning city and the university and the lifelong learning entity, whether it's a centre, a department, directorate, how both of those concepts can work together and can benefit from each other. So to start, we are starting today with a series over this week, and I want to thank Karma and all the team in UCAN for all of the work in the background. It's lovely to have a nice group here today, and we may have some of you for the full week. So with that in mind, I thought it would be very nice for us to start by doing some round of introductions. And we all come to this workshop today from whatever our context is, with different backgrounds, different job titles and so on. But also we have something that drives us, a passion, an interest. So for today's introductions, I would like you to take it in turn. I'll call on your name as I see you on my screen. But if you could introduce yourself and say, which hat are you wearing today? We use the idea of integrated thinking and different colors to represent different sectors. So for today, if you are wearing a hat, a virtual hat, would it be yellow for learning? Is that what drives you most? Would it be green for the environment? Would it be red for health and well-being? Would it be blue for the economy, for economic development? Or would it be grey for inclusion? So those are 5 different colours we use in our thinking in Cork to try and integrate our plans. So we'll use them for today for this purpose, just to do an introduction. So yellow for learning, green for the environment, that's easy. Red for health, like red for the Red Cross. Grey of inclusion, because all the colours are mixed. Blue for the blue bloods of the economy. So I might just ask you to say who you are, where you're from, and which hat are you wearing today? And you can be creative with the hats, of course. So Balash, you're first on my screen. You get to go first in this little exercise. So who are you, where are you from, and which hat are you wearing? You're muted.
Very welcome on behalf of UCAN, and may I also thank you, my colleagues at the office, to have organized together with, in association with University College Cork and City of Cork, this particular event to start this week to focus on how to bridge university lifelong learning and learning cities. As for the question, I think I would wear a grey hat because, well, the most challenging thing in my own city and my university is how to include more and more learners around university lifelong learning, and we have recognized that the Learning City is a very good environment to do this. Back to the short greetings. I think this scenario, this issue, learning cities, learning communities, is a very much important issue, not just because it's being a identical part of sustainable development goals, but also to enable universities to find some good focuses, how to serve the community, referring to the needs of the local and regional public. And I think that's very much important to highlight universities' practices, to identify choices and limitations, and based on some recent practices to find some good lessons to learn. Thank you very much, and very welcome to this UCAN event as a first week of the Open Fora. Thank you.
Thanks, Balash. Now, do you want to?
You are muted, Denis.
Yes, I was muted automatically. I think somebody wanted to keep me. No, what color hat are you wearing today, Balázs? You're wearing grey for inclusion. So for everyone else, yeah, we're going to just your name, your place, and which hat you are wearing. And thanks to Balázs. Balázs is president of UCAN, as most of you know, for all of the background work for today's session and for the sessions during the week. So I'm just going to call on names as I see them on the screen, but I think I will start with my co-presenter this morning, Seamus. So Seamus, do you want to tell us who you are and which hat you're wearing?
Sorry, no, normally, Denis, when you do this, I kick for touch and come up with several different hats. But I suppose today, the two colours that are really, I suppose, important for me are yellow for learning, for lifelong learning, because that's what our aim today is, and grey for inclusion, because I think they are critically important to everything we do, and partnership is a very, very important part of what we do as well. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to a very exciting and interesting week. Thanks, Denis.
That's great. Okay, before I go on to the next person, I just ask you all, if you can, depending on your broadband, to turn on your cameras for a quick hello at the start. You can turn them off again then afterwards. And you're all muted as of now, so you need to unmute yourself. So next on my screen is, and excuse my pronunciation, please, of the names, Kramarenko.
Yes, it's quite correct. So good afternoon from Cluj. I'm coming from a city which is totally dependent on students. And unfortunately, since March, we are totally online and preserving the social distancing totally. So that's why today I am wearing both the learning and the economic hat, because we are trying to figure out how we can manage the absence of students in our city.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kramarenko. So the yellow hat and the blue hat. So next on my screen is Paula Guimarães.
Hello, my name is Paula Guimarães. I am from the Institute of Education of the University of Lisbon, but right now I'm a visiting professor at the University of Würzburg. So today it's a very nice day. It's very warm in Germany, and I'm wearing the learning hat, the yellow hat. I'm interested mostly in questions related to learning, and I'm also curious about the learning cities issue, because I think it's a good opportunity to develop very different activities, but at the same time, it must be also a challenge, or it is probably also a challenge to develop these activities and to make them learning activities with a purpose. And what I mean is that in many occasions, some of these activities seem to be everything and nothing at the same time, because when you have everything, sometimes you have also nothing at the same time. And I am curious about what is going to be said by other colleagues. Probably I'm not taking a careful look at important issues when I consider the learning cities issue. So thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to join you today.
Thank you, Paula. That's brilliant. Next on my screen is Joni, and Joni's also coming from Cork. And Joni will be watching the chat today, so if you have some questions or observations, we will take them at the end. So Joni, introduce yourself, please, and your hat.
So hi everyone, my name is Joni Hendrick. I work for the team at Adults Continuing Education in University College Cork, along with Seamus, and I've been working with Denis a lot lately as well. So it's nice to meet you all. I think my hat would probably be, because of the current pandemic, I think it's important to stay safe and stay healthy. So I'm going to pick a red hat for health.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joni. So again, if you can turn on your cameras, some of you may not be able to, but if you can, please do. Next is Luca. So Luca, do you want to introduce yourself and your hat? And just again, to unmute yourself, everyone.
Yes. I've unmuted myself, thank you. So I'm Luka Gaboszczyk, I'm from Ljubljana, from CPZ International, that Center for Knowledge Promotion. So which hat should I choose? I'll choose the green hat because, well, nature is what surrounds us these days because we are all for ourselves, and that's what inspires me, so that's it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Luca. So next on my screen is Elizabeth. So Elizabeth Valencia. I don't see the full name. You can introduce yourself and your hat.
Good, well, I say greetings instead of good morning. Elizabeth Valencia Borgert, and I'm from St. Cloud State University in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Somebody said that he or she was in a warm place. Right now it's -2 degrees, and it's just the beginning of November, so you can imagine. And we are new members in eucen. So we're very happy to be here, and I'll be wearing the yellow for learning and the gray for inclusion today. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Elizabeth. So next on my screen is, again, forgive my pronunciation, Ule Kesley.
Hello.
Hello.
It was quite okay.
Okay.
I'm used to different pronunciations, so don't worry. I'm coming from Estonia, working in Tartu, University of Tartu, as head specialist for continuing education, and right now I'm also involved in eucen. So, today I'm wearing, I think, the main color is yellow for learning, but I think there are different dots with different colors all around. So it's a mixture.
Mix.
And yellow is also good for today because all the nature is yellow right now in Estonia.
Thanks, Ule.
Thank you.
So next is Susan Denis.
Hello, everybody. And I'm coming from Florida Atlantic University, originally from England, actually. And when you said the hat colors, I immediately thought I was a blend of all those hats. But mainly my main color is yellow. For learning.
Brilliant. Thanks, Susan. So next on my screen, Kari Seppala.
Hello from Turku. I'm Kari Seppala and happy to be back in a eucen event again after some time. I think I will choose a rainbow kind of pride hat because what we are concerned with now is the issue of impact of the university in society, about impact, engagement, and the role of the university in general. So that's why all the colors matter.
Lovely. First rainbow hat today. There's always a number, usually, when we do something like this. Next, maybe Carmel Berendi.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Carmel Berendi, and I'm from the Doctoral School of Education from ETA University in Budapest, but my alma mater is Pécs University. And my research focuses on the learning cities, and especially how higher education institutions can foster together with adult educators through the network of learning city, the learning communities. And it has a special focus on sustainability issues. So today I'm wearing a green hat, and also as a enthusiastic lifelong learner, the yellow hat as well. And the supervisor for my thesis is Professor Német Balázs.
Yes, good man. So you have a good team there working together, both of you. That's great. Next is a colleague of mine, Siobhan McDevitt. So Siobhan.
Hi, Denis. My name is Siobhan, and I am the coordinator of the Lifelong Learning Festival in Cork City. So my color is yellow. It's our theme color for the festival program. We've had 17 years of these programs being issued now. So yellow all the way for me, Denis.
Thank you, Siobhan. Okay, next we will hear from Jenny.
Hello, I am from Greece, from the University of Ioannina, a long-time member from eucen. Now I am Vice President of the Center of Lifelong Learning in our university in Ioannina, in Greece. And I will wear the yellow and the blue hat. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jenny. Next, someone again back to Ireland, Nora Trench-Bowles.
Hello, thank you, Denis, and good morning, everyone. My name is Nora Trench-Bowles. I work for the Irish Universities Association, which is the representative body of the 7 universities in Ireland, including, of course, UCC. And I'm very definitely wearing the ULLL hat today, here from a lifelong learning perspective.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nora. Next, I would like to invite Karma Royo from UCEN, who has worked in the background, to introduce herself and her hat.
Hi, Denis. Thank you. I wasn't actually expecting to talk today, but thank you. I think that from my perspective, I think that UCEN should actually have all the hats, because we think that all is interconnected and all is relevant and important, and one thing well, influence the rest. But if I have to select, definitely I would go for yellow, for learning, lifelong learning. That is our motto, always learning, and also inclusion. We are doing a lot of work on that area, and I think it's currently very important for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Karma. Next, I will ask Alfredo. Alfredo, thanks for turning on your camera so we can see you. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I have a virtual background. I'm not by the sea, so don't get fooled. Hi, everyone. Good to be here, and looking forward for what we're going to discuss. And many of you I didn't see you for a long time, like Jenny and Mule and Kari. So good to see you.
And do you have a hat this morning, Alfredo? Any particular one?
I'll join whatever you need.
Flexible hat, very good.
Yep, yep.
Thanks, Alfredo. Next, I will call on colleague and friend now, we've worked on a number of projects, Annalisa from the States. The day before a big day in the States. So Annalisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to. What happens tomorrow? Hi, I'm Annalisa Raymer from Ithaca, New York at Cornell University. I'm wearing a yellow hat and a gray hat, and part of the inclusion, I know this is not what you mean, but I'm delighted to be included, so thank you. And hi, Balash, and hi, Siobhan, and hi, Seamus.
Lovely to have you with us, Annalisa. So next, I will call on some of the people who I see the names. If you turn on your cameras, you'll get called up first. So Olga, you've put on your camera. Lovely to see you. Do you want to introduce yourself and your hat?
Yes. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olga Pavlova-Gincha. I'm specialist of International Project Department at ASOI, our Russian Federation.
Brilliant. And do you have any hat this morning that you want to wear?
No, I think I haven't got.
Okay, flexible hat as well. Thanks, Olga. Lovely to have you join us. So next I'm going to invite Julie Wietrich to introduce yourself. Julie.
Good morning, everyone. I am the new project officer at UCEN, and today I would be wearing a yellow hat.
Brilliant. Lovely. Thanks, Julie. And then the last few names I don't have on screen, but I will just invite you to join if you can. So Anita, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the no camera because of the bandwidth. I'm from the distance university in Germany, the Fernuniversität in Hagen. I'm happy to be here, and today I'm wearing the yellow hat.
Lovely. Brilliant, Anita. Thank you for joining us. And the last two names, one is the shortest name on the screen. Just J is all I can see. So if you can say hello, if that's possible. And the last name of all is Francesca. So Francesca, if you can say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning to everyone. My name is Francesca and I work for UCEN as project manager. It's nice to see many familiar faces. And well, I also agree that UCAN should wear all the hats. So I would like to borrow Kari's hat if possible. And yes.
Very good.
Thank you,
Francesca. So just to conclude my own name and role, I'm Denis Barrett. I coordinate the development of Cork City as a learning city, working with UNESCO and working with many partners in this. And I'm very pleased to share the presentation this morning with Seamus O'Toole from University College Cork, from ACE, the Adult Continuing Education Centre in the university. So what we propose to do is to show you some slides and to check in with you afterwards to see are there questions or observations. Just to ask, is there anyone else who didn't introduce themselves in case they're not on my screen, but I think I covered everybody. Okay, so as I said, please do use the chat function. Joni will moderate it, and we will take questions and observations at the end. So Seamus will start the presentation, then I will take over from him. So Seamus, over to you.
Thanks, Denis. The introductions probably took a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but it's good that everybody got a chance to connect, and I think it's good that we know who everybody is and get a sense of the connectivity across the world. So we've gone from west to east quite considerably. And in talking about the Cork Learning City, I think there's one central theme that runs through it, and that's around the idea of partnership and collaboration and cooperation. These are I would say articles of faith of the city, and it's something that we all aspire to, but we also, I suppose, hold each other to account in terms of practice. We all are very much conscious of this, and we all try to, as far as possible, to do everything in partnership. So this is the model in Cork City, and from the university, that's a big challenge. And I realize lots of people here are from the university sector. And I always say the biggest challenge for the university in the first place is a little bit of humility. For us to realize we don't know everything about everything, and we don't have the solution to every problem for everybody. And this might sound simple, but it actually is a major challenge. And tomorrow we are going to be talking about celebration, and my colleague Siobhan will talk a lot more about that. But the Learning Festival is probably the best example of where we share in collaboration and in partnership. And as a partner in that, the university is the same as all other partners. And these could be a local knitting group, the Beekeepers Association, opera singers, you know, whatever they are, everybody is the same. And I think that's an important starting point. And for universities, this is the key message in terms of engagement with cities, in learning cities, is to understand your role. You have a certain role to play, but you are just one partner among many. So now we just want to talk a little bit about the origins of the situation. Just to very, very, very briefly show you where Cork is. You can see, I suppose, from our perspective, we are the center of the planet. But of course, that's just our perspective. We are in a small city, in a small island, in the middle of the Atlantic, between Europe and North America. And Ireland is very much in that frame. We very much see ourselves as being both connected to North America and to Europe. Ireland is, strangely, the most Euro positive country in the European Union. So we are the most committed Europeans. When the euro was introduced, it took us 6 days to completely transfer to the euro. But we are also completely connected to the United States, especially. And the US elections, which are on at the moment, to Irish people, it's like an election in Ireland. We follow it with the same level of interest and enthusiasm. So we are a peculiar place. We're a very small place, which means that we have to connect ourselves to the world. And we realize we're not a superpower in terms of military might or any of these things, but we like to see ourselves as a superpower in terms of the idea of collaboration and cooperation.
And this is the message that we try to bring to the world. So just to tell you a little bit about the Learning City journey, and the Learning City journey in Cork is quite long, and it probably goes back a lot further than this. So I thought just slightly over 100 years is probably far enough for us to go back. In 1908, we had the College of Commerce founded, which is the largest further education college in Ireland. And this is an important development because it straight away saw the value in further education. And I suppose trying to push the frontiers of the education system a little bit. In 1911, my own university got involved in its first adventures into lifelong learning through what was then called extension and so on. But the idea that the university had to play an important role, and there were two very, very important leaders in the university at the time. Bertram Windle initially started this in 1911, but he was very soon followed by Alfred O'Reilly, who later became president of the university, and they were extremely committed to the idea of collaboration. And in the earliest, from the very earliest moments, they involved themselves with the city, with the trade union movement, and with civil society organizations. My department was founded in 1946, and strange as it may seem now, the president of the university was the head of the unit, and he ran it for many years as, you know, his most important core role in the university. Now, we just move on very quickly. In the 1980s, soon after Ireland joined the then European Economic Community, now the EU, there was an economic collapse in Cork City because it was based around heavy industry and so on and so forth. Now, this created a huge economic collapse in the city, but it also created a sense that we needed to rely on each other and to collaborate with each other in order to solve our common problems. A hugely important moment in the development of the Learning City was in 2001, when Cork City Council, along with all the other municipalities in Ireland, was asked to develop a strategic plan. In Cork, something slightly different happened in the sense that two very important educationalists, Anya Hyland, Professor of Education in my university, and Dick Langford, who at the time was the chief executive of what is now Cork Education and Training Board, got involved in this project, and they were very instrumental in putting forward the idea of a learning city idea in the Imagine Our Future strategic plan for the city. And this was adopted, and this became the blueprint for the development of the Learning City in Cork. So right from the beginning, right through the whole development process, this was very much a collaborative process. But I think it's important to acknowledge here that the City Council itself was very open to the idea of partnership and very open to the idea of learning, because in the Irish system, city councils do not have a function in relation to the education system in a formal statutory way. And you can just see very quickly there what the key ideas were. So it was learning that is available for all levels and all ages in the city, and this became immediately a really important priority. So it wasn't just a statement; it was a priority that was put into action. And then, where the city was recognised nationally and internationally as a learning city, and I think this became very much the case, and it's part of the identity of Cork now, very much so, that we are a learning city and that we are part of a wider learning community. Involved all the stakeholders, and tomorrow when we talk about the festival, which Siobhan will talk about the festival, you will get a better sense of the scale of that. But I think it's really important to emphasize this, because it's very easy for us all to get into our silos and to think that what we are doing is the most important thing and the only thing that counts. And through this process, I think we've all been forced to come out of our silos, to see that what other people are doing is important, and to engage and collaborate with them in real and meaningful ways. So we try to go right across the educational spectrum, formal, non-formal, informal, anywhere learning is happening, that's important. And it's important for us also to emphasize that learning and education are not the same thing. Universities very often think about education and have an educational focus, and that's of course important. But education is not the beginning, end, and total sum of learning. And it's really important that we remember that. Should we move on, Denis? Okay. So the Imagine Our Future project, I've just mentioned it a little bit already, but it was a 2-year consultation process. It was trying to come up with a plan for Cork for a 10-year period. It included this theme on Cork as a learning city, and the idea of flexible learning, all-encompassing flexible learning. Now, it established the Cork Learning Forum, and it included in it almost what I would say, almost like a footnote, the Learning Festival. But the Learning Festival became the critical, I would say, the critical change catalyst in the city. And I think this is an important point. In terms of building a learning city, you need to imagine what is the catalyst for your city. What is the thing that you can work on in your city in a collaborative way to make a change and make a difference? In Cork, it was the Learning Festival, but in your city, it's going to be something different. So that's important for you to think about that. And the other point is the Learning Festival started as a very small event with a very small number of participants, and it turned into something much, much, much bigger. So that's also important. It doesn't have to be a massively important, big, huge event. It can be something very small, and you work from the grassroots up. But once everybody understands that they are an equal partner, I think that's really, really, really important. So do you want to move on from there, Denis?
Okay, I might just come in just again at that point to reflect on Cork's links with the international partners. So in our challenge here, looking at the city's development, this is a drone shot of Cork City, but it could be any city. And we always acknowledge that cities have similar problems, similar challenges, but every city is different. There is no blueprint for working through a learning city approach to achieve its vision around sustainability, inclusion, economic development, all integrated. Cities are very complex, organizations within them and the government departments they report to are silos, and it's always a challenge to break out of the silos. And how to continue motivating people and to maintain your innovation is always a challenge. And our mantra has been and continues to be that no one organization can do it alone. So some of the milestones Seamus has reflected on, 2011, 2012 was an important connection with the international partners in Pascal and UNESCO, and on our own island with Belfast in a different jurisdiction, connecting our Lifelong Learning Festival with the major community festival there. So our festival has, as Seamus has outlined, started small but grew to almost 600 events, all free of charge, a simple model. Everyone had to be free and open to all citizens. And secondly, any organization was welcome to join, but they hosted an event from their own resources. So from the start, it was work with the willing was our motto, and organizations, large and small, from universities to local knitting groups to nature networks, all found their own home in the festival. And we presented their events in an equal way. So there was no hierarchy. One type of learning wasn't presented as being more important than the other. Now about 15,000 plus, very difficult to count them all, participate in the annual one-week event. These are some highlights from 2018, a significant year in that our president contacted us and asked could he come to our festival, which was a lovely gesture and heartfelt. And he chose an event which was family oriented, young people performing music as a music inclusion program in the city. And it was just one highlight of the many, many 500 plus events that particular year. Some of the other spectrum of events are listed there, from learning factories, where factories open their doors to groups from the public to show what learning can take place within the workplace. So some other milestones along the way, we worked with Peter Cairns on this concept of Echo Well, and we hosted an international conference in 2013. And that led really to the connection with the project that UNESCO were engaged in at that time to bring learning, which had been there for many years, going back to the papers Jacques Delors had put out there, looking at learning cities and learning regions. UNESCO in 2013 were gathering expert advice and creating a new network, a global network of learning cities. So Cork were part of that first international conference in Beijing, and our Deputy Lord Mayor, Lorraine Kingston, was honoured to be asked to speak on behalf of all the mayors at the closing ceremony there. Our City Council adopted the Beijing Declaration on Building a Learning City, so it became our own policy in our city, and we formed our working group and signed a memorandum of understanding between the 4 lead partners. And Seamus' organisation, UCC, has been key in this, as has been the other 3rd level partner in the city, Cork Institute of Technology. But the MOU is with the Education and Training Board, or our statutory body concerning further education, adult education, community education, youth work, and it also has responsibility for some 2nd level schools, not all. And Cork City Council, who, as Seamus says, doesn't have a formal role in education, but as a neutral body at the centre of the development of learning, sees itself as having a crucial role. And then that led to the selection of Cork by UNESCO in 2015 for one of the first 12 World City Awards presented at the conference in Mexico. And then that led us to think, even though we are a small city, 200,000 plus, that we have a unique strength to bring to this agenda. And we put our name forward to UNESCO as host of the 2017 International Conference on Learning Cities. And it was a challenge, a pleasure, and I think, like the Learning Festival, it very much acted as a project that all the partners could collaborate on and work together on in 2017 to host that event. So we had over 500 international delegates in the city that year. Some of you may have joined us, I know some of you have. It was a fantastic experience over the course of that year. So this EcoWell approach that we speak of, it's really about cross-fertilization, and some of the exercise, including our hats, comes directly from that, challenging us to think outside our own silo, and by connecting with other sectors to generate new ideas, creativity, and goodwill. Some of the city complex problems, the wicked challenges a city faces, have to have cross-sectoral approaches. And this is something we have found, that with the complex and the increasing pace of change, that complex challenges really need that approach outside of any one silo. So we've worked with UNESCO ever since. In 2015, we built on an understanding of community education and an understanding that despite our very successful and strong partnership at citywide level, that there were still communities within our city that needed for us to reach out to, with persistent socio-economic deprivation, with low participation rates in 3rd level and high percentages comparatively of young people leaving without a formal 2nd level education. And we looked at an idea, again, from our colleague and friend, Peter Kearns, working with Pascal, of this idea of a learning neighbourhood. And Cork decided we would pilot this idea, make our own of it, and give it a try. So we challenged 2 communities in the city to work with us and to pilot that idea, and they started that in 2015. And then by 2017, those communities had built a long track record over the 2 years, had a strong local partnership, and they were able to work with us as one other partner in hosting the conference that year. So on the back of the bus there, you can see one of the projects that we enjoyed piloting over those 2 years. An idea we borrowed from Spain, from Vitoria-Gasteiz, where the citizens of the city were the faces of their efforts to be a green and sustainable city. So our project was to have faces of learning, that everybody learns in their lifetime, and instead of the mayor, or a celebrity being the poster person for our conference and for our Learning City. It was ordinary citizens of all ages and backgrounds.
Dennis, could I just say something very briefly about the idea of learning neighbourhoods? We were going to talk about it anyway now, but just the idea of neighbourhood rather than community, you know, so this is an important distinction. A neighbourhood is a geographical space. So everybody in that geographical space is included. So it doesn't matter whether they're a citizen, an asylum seeker, whether they're a refugee, whether they are wealthy or wise, rich or poor, doesn't matter what religious background, what ethnic background, what gender identity, any of these things make no difference. Everybody in the neighbourhood is a neighbour. And that includes people maybe who work there, offer services, it includes businesses, it includes everybody. And we adopted the word denizen as opposed to citizen, in the sense that a denizen is everybody who is in that space. But I think it's important, the idea of neighbourhood is really, really important, because it's a neighbourhood, while it's a geographical space, neighbourhoods, generally speaking, have fuzzy boundaries. So they're not that rigidly defined. So in that sense, you know, there isn't a strong line demarcating it, but at the same time, it's about the sense that you can and should belong, and that everybody should be included. So that's a really important dimension of the learning neighbourhood idea. So Denis, do you want to talk about the citizen science project now? Will I talk about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the pictures you see here are a number of women primarily, although there was one man as well in this group, who got involved in a diploma course on women's studies, which was awarded by my university, but it was very much a partnership project. And Denis was very much involved in that as well. At the time, he worked for Cork ETB, and this was our first big collaborative project together. And we worked in this neighbourhood called Knocknaheeny, which is in the northwest sector of the city. It's one of the most economically deprived and has more probably socioeconomic issues than most other neighbourhoods in the city. It's also, ironically, the neighbourhood in which Apple Computer's huge campus is situated. So there's a kind of an irony, I suppose. These two huge things are next to each other. But we ran this women's studies program. It was in what is called by the City Council the Northwest Quarter in Knocknaheeny. It was a collaboration by my university, Cork Education Training Board, Cork City Partnership, which is a local partnership company, and the local community. So this is very much a collaborative project, and we had to think outside the box in many ways in terms of the delivery of this program. The women involved had literally no disposable income, so there's no fee on the program. So we ran the program at a time when it was convenient for them. Many of these women had young children attending school or kindergarten. So the program started after they had gone to school and finished before they returned from school. We had a lot of supports in the local community centre to assist them. But anyway, they did this program and they graduated. And we had virtually zero attrition because it was very much a neighbourhood project. And then once they had finished, many of these said, well, what do we do? Some came onto the university, some went to CIT, the other third level institution, and so on and so forth. But one of the things we did was we ran a citizen science project with them in collaboration with one of the other departments in the university, the Department of Applied Social Studies, where we ran a module from the university, which was around social research. And they undertook this, and then they also became researchers in a project on regeneration, which the School of Applied Social Studies had won a tender from Cork City Council to do a social impact study of urban regeneration. And these women were recruited as the researchers for that project. So we had a five credit module, and then the students went on and they co-designed the research with the team in applied social studies and City Council. Then they carried out the research. They also were involved in a focus group with Cork City Council Regeneration team. And I suppose what happened here in a sense is that as citizen scientists, they got skills which were very useful for them. They were also, some of them became enumerators in the national census, and they got other work in relation to carrying out research. It gave them the confidence to do that. But the impact in terms of them going door to door to their own neighbours, asking them questions, allowing them to formulate the questions to say, these are the questions we think are important to be asked, and then asking those questions had a huge impact in relation to the regeneration plan. It really took it to another level, and it gave those people involved huge level of confidence, but it also demonstrated how good and how well they could carry out really important, sophisticated research. And we just have a few quotes there, Denis, which I think might be useful to share from two of the women. And maybe just stick up the other one as well there. Yeah. And then you can just look at them there yourselves. I won't, because I know we're very tight on time, so I won't spend much more on it, and we'll share these slides with you. But you can just see straight away, I suppose, the impact that this had individually for those people involved, but also the impact that this has right across the neighbourhood, not just for the individuals involved themselves, but to their siblings, their friends, their parents, their children, and so on. And I suppose that's what we're really trying to do in the neighbourhood. We're trying to change the dynamic. We're trying to get people to think about learning in a different, more positive, more inclusive way. And it's always a challenge. It's always, you know, a matter of experimentation, review, renewal, and so on. But that's what the project is essentially about.
Okay, thanks, Seamus. So just to return to our own learnings from our journey with UNESCO, the theme of the third international conference was global goals, local action. So our challenge to be integrated in our thinking very much tied in with the theme of that conference. And as a piece of shared work, as I was expressing, it was a great experience for us to work together on this. And on the left side of the screen, that's the core working group that pulled together the content with UNESCO of the 3 days. And on the right, the four senior management figures in the Memorandum of Understanding partners. So the two presidents of University College Cork and Cork Institute of Technology, Chief Executive of Cork City Council and of the Education and Training Board jointly gave a presentation at the conference. Each shared the podium, and that was really a statement of our model as a partnership. Our thinking, I suppose, evolving from that integrated holistic approach, really applying that to the Sustainable Development Goals has been our concern ever since. So the conference at the time looked at how a learning city can, as well as Goal 4 on quality education, it can drive the delivery of sustainable cities and communities, Goal 11, and very much that sense of unique partnerships. So those are the goals that we have been focused on ever since. The outcome document was the UNESCO Cork Call to Action on Learning Cities, and the three pillars of that, again, form the pillars of our Learning City practice since then: to be green and healthy, equitable and inclusive, and to support decent work and entrepreneurship. So using three pillars really to bring the Sustainable Development Goals into more manageable terms. And that's the basis for all our actions ever since. So in the fourth conference, which was last September in Medellin in Colombia, each again of the four lead partners, the presidents, chief executives, presented again as a partnership, and the UCC presentation focused on some examples of how that has been implemented in Cork. The idea of a green campus that UCC has been the first to be awarded globally, that green flag. learning neighbourhoods, planting food forests, growing locally, produce that they can use in cooking and eating themselves. And with the partner in the health service, the idea of the city as a playful city, to develop spaces, close down streets, and support families and young people and people of all ages to engage in play. So I suppose back to where we are now, the 10 years we have left to help our city and help our nations and help the globe to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals. We need all the partners really to work together to do this. And key message for me in all of the experiences that Cork has had to date is that a learning city approach is an excellent way to connect with other partners. It's a fantastic platform for cooperation. And for any university or any city that hasn't worked in this way, this is a very useful way to develop that approach. The ability to join the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities is something that requires some degree of collaboration and political commitment in a city, but it's quite achievable. There are over 200 cities now in UNESCO Institute of Lifelong Learning's global network, and a number of the partners locally that we have in Cork, we've linked with other partners in other parts of Ireland and across Europe, North America and beyond. And by hosting meetings and events, there are a few familiar faces on that photograph. So you'll see Balash there and Annalisa, both on the call today with UNESCO, represented there by Raoul and Arne Carlson, who some of you will have worked with in the past. Our growing network across North America is really important to us, waiting for the United States to rejoin UNESCO, which we all hope will happen soon. But in terms of the realities for people on the ground, this is just one simple example of our ecosystem in our city that has allowed new pieces of work to happen. Jenny on the left has a number of profound disabilities, and James on the right is a master's engineering student. And by linking the two partners, Jenny's a committed musician, very much actively involved in an inclusion project around music, and James was able to create as his master's project a piece of interactive technology that enabled Jenny to participate more fully in inclusive music. So that is our learnings from our lesson so far. To prompt some discussion, I would like to share a short video that Cork worked with UNESCO, with ULL, that were launched in 2017. And while I'm teeing it up there, maybe Seamus, you might like to just explain the process that brought us to work together on this. You're mute there, Seamus.
Sorry about that. Maybe I should be mute more often, Denis. I think this is another example of partnership building and partnership creation. UNESCO engaged with us, I think maybe through Denis's good offices more than anything else, around developing a program, a video, which would, or a series of videos that would help cities in terms of designing a learning city. And we did this in collaboration. The main partner in the university here was a colleague in Digital Arts and Humanities department. She led the project, and her PhD student was involved in the main driving and design of it. But it also included our partners in the ETB, Cork City Council, and Cork Institute of Technology. We're all part of the group that co-designed and assisted UNESCO in creating this video, a series of videos. Now you'll see from the videos, I suppose there are a lot of challenges because it's a UNESCO project, it's a United Nations project. So there are a lot of issues around language and design and all kinds of things here. And a lot of that was a huge challenge for us, but I think we achieved something pretty good.
What is a learning city all about? A learning city puts people in the center of development. It promotes education and lifelong learning for all, and with this, facilitates individual empowerment and social cohesion, economic and cultural prosperity, and sustainability. Ask people what it means to learn, and many will picture a classroom, but we also learn in the community and the workplace, in public spaces and through digital technologies. In a learning city, learning takes place in all of these settings, providing opportunities to further develop knowledge, skills, and competences for everyone and throughout life. Lifelong learning for all is the future of our cities.
But how can we actually make this happen? There are dedicated cities all around the world that have transformed themselves into learning cities towards achieving this vision. And while every city is unique in its cultural and socioeconomic settings, common areas of action exist for building learning cities.
Planning involving stakeholders, celebrating learning, promoting accessibility, monitoring and evaluating progress, as well as mobilizing resources, are core to the success of a learning city.
All of these areas are explored in a series of 6 animated video guidelines, which can be used as a starting point for your city to learn more and begin your learning city journey. Other learning cities have contributed best practice videos in which they share their advice to each of these core areas of action.
So join the initiative and discover how to transform your own city into a learning city. A place where knowledge thrives, the economy succeeds, communities unite, and where no one is left behind.
So that's one of the outputs of our joint work at that time. And you can see at the end there, Think Visual was a local company that was engaged by UNESCO. We worked across all the partners, again, and another project that brings us all together. So we have taken a good amount of the hour and very conscious of that. It's the start of a week. There'll be lots of opportunities over the course of the week to continue the conversations. And some of the models we looked at today, the learning festivals, for example, we'll have an opportunity to consider those. But just before we say goodbye for today, I do want to give an opportunity. Joni's been looking at any questions or observations in the chat. So Joni, do you want to bring anything up for us?
Yeah, we have no questions in the chat at the moment. Just a note from Balash. He just says that universities in extramural actions should demonstrate ULLL for denizens and with collaborative partners in a mutual formation to avoid rigid structures. Learning City, Learning Festival actions are good examples for that kind of participatory action in city region dimension. But if anyone would like to ask a question now on video, they have the chance to now. Oh, we just actually had a question come in from Francesca. She wants to know which has been the most unexpected result you have witnessed on the community from the Learning City development process.
Well, one simple, very striking example is the transformation in identity. As a community education facilitator of many years, working with local partners at community level, we were always focused on outreach and reaching out and targeting. And for good reason, because opportunities are not equally spread throughout our cities. So for an area that has been identified as a disadvantaged area, as an economic black spot, as an unemployment black spot, for an area of the city to identify itself as a learning neighbourhood and to celebrate its own learning in all its forms, and to bring partners together and to host a busload of delegates from the conference. At that time, 2017, there were 4. We started with 2, it grew to 4. We have now 6 learning neighbourhoods, but in 2017, the 4 learning neighbourhoods of that time hosted the delegates in their own settings and really put on their best learning show that they, of all the opportunities that happen within their own areas. Seamus, do you want to maybe come in on this? Because just even being with the delegates as they experienced that sense of identity.
Absolutely. I was on the bus that went to Ballyfihan, which is on the south side of the city. And some of the people, the delegates from different places in the world, were crying. They were so moved by what the people spoke about there. There was such a deep level of authenticity and a deep commitment to the whole idea of learning in that learning neighbourhood that really, I mean, that did take me by surprise because I was quite emotional myself, and I had worked a lot with Ballyfihan. But there is another example, I think, Denis, which again took me greatly by surprise, was when we were in one of the neighbourhoods. This was right at the beginning. We were trying to engage with the principal of one of the schools, and she said, I have 100 priorities in my school, and you are 101. So this was an indication that, we weren't high on her list of priorities. But within maybe 3 months, she was contacted by the national broadcasting company in Ireland to do a short documentary on her school to be broadcast on national TV. And when that happened, she said, no, I don't want that. What I want you to do is I want you to do this program on the learning neighbourhood in my community. And that's exactly what happened. So in a very short period of time, the principal of that school, despite all the pressures that she was under, and she is under a lot of pressure, said, this is an important project for me to buy into. It's an important project for my school to buy into. And it's important that we realize we're part of a learning neighbourhood. And that to me was, like one of the most mind-blowing changes, because this was somebody who was very pragmatic, very, very busy person who, in a very short period of time, saw the value of it and changed her whole emphasis around the whole partnership as well, which I think was fantastic.
Thanks, Seamus. I see we have a couple of other questions, and if people are okay just to stay on a little bit longer, I might have a short answer for them, and we'll pick up on these questions tomorrow and throughout the week. So the multilingual community, how can we bring them together considering language barriers? One lesson we learned along the way was to be open, and the word genuine was used by Seamus. The partners, including the university, by going into communities and asking them, how do you want to engage with us? How do you want to showcase what you do, and what do you want to learn? So in our learning festival, so Siobhan might give a little input here on Welcome English is one of the partner organizations for us. And during the years, they have brought together all the languages to share their own cultures and their own heritage and their own foods. I think that's probably the best example, Siobhan.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example, Denis. I suppose inclusivity has always been a huge part of the Lifelong Learning Festival, and another part is choice. And when people make a choice to become part of their neighbourhood or to go and learn something, then it's a really powerful thing. Well, Ash mentioned choice earlier. I think that's a key message too. Language, I suppose, is always going to be an issue, language differences, but there's lots of ways to overcome it if you can be inventive, I suppose, with our new technologies as well. So once people have made the choice that they want to connect, I think that's really a key part of it.
Okay, thanks, Siobhan. I'm just going to briefly give a little bit of time to Kramarenko, saying in terms of social distancing, challenges being encountered. One example, again, I think every city may have its own examples, but one I certainly saw was a lifelong learning centre that instead of having sessions in a classroom has brought groups out and does sessions walking, socially distanced through the local parks. And every week that particular centre has a surprise tutor join them on the walk, and they do a session on a range of subjects. Susan has a question as well there on the first steps. So one of the lessons we learned along the way was work with the willing. And sometimes that might be the chief executive or the president, and sometimes it might be somebody at a different level within the organization. Any group of partners can move the agenda forward. And I think you always need champions within organizations that can bring the message to the heart of the organization and bring it up to the senior people in the organization. But from the very start, in our case, from the vision back in 2002, which was a very high level vision, but the actions were ground up. So I really like the idea of top down, bottom up, but middle out is sometimes the key. When you have the middle layers in organizations who are passionate about a topic, that can often be the key to unlocking kind of buy-in and commitment and moving forward.
I think, Denis, as well, I suppose it's important to say that no initiative is too small. You know, I think they don't have to be huge initiatives. I think small things can work. I'll give you an example. There was a disused railway line, and this retired man came out with his spade and his things and started clearing a little bit of the railway line, clearing the weeds. And somebody said, "What are you doing?" And he said, I'm trying to make this a place where people can walk." And his friend came and helped him. And then 2 other friends came, and then 5 and 10 friends came. And eventually the local authority, the council came, and everybody eventually worked. And then they created this hugely important resource in the area that I live in. Hundreds and thousands of people use that resource every hour of the day, every day of the week now, because they can walk there and they can bring their kids in a safe place and so on and so forth. So it doesn't matter how small the initiative is. I think rather than trying to have the huge, big impact, very often the smaller impact. And that's why I think the Learning Festival is important, because everybody is an equal partner and it creates a different kind of a dynamic. It means that if I come from the university, I am the same as everybody else around the table. I'm not in any privileged or special place. And I think with the top-down models, sometimes, you know, the chief executive of the organization appears or whatever, and then it becomes very hierarchical, and that sometimes is not the best way to go. So I would say, you know, look at the small things. And as Denis said, you know, the phrase, I think that a famous former American president used, the coalition of the willing, not the most positive context at the time, but it's a phrase we can continue to use now. I think you work with people who are willing to work with you.
Absolutely. And just for any of you that would like to join any of the events, one of the plus points of this new era of COVID is these international events are all online now. So if somebody from your city, Susan, is interested in joining one of the UNESCO seminars, there are a series of them. So please do keep in touch with ourselves in Cork, but also look at the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning website, and the events that they're hosting will be up there. So I think we're gone a good bit over our hour, and I'm really grateful for all of you for joining us. I see friends from Lowell, very hard-working Learning City advocates in Lowell. John is here, and Nadia, and Dr. Dunkel has joined us also. So thanks all for coming along for today's journey. I think we might close it off just shortly. I see there's a few more questions in there. Where can we see other best practices where UAS and universities have a leading role in Learning City initiatives? John Wooding, I would speak to you. John, you're a good example of this. John, do you want to tell your brief story? I am happy to give you a quick opportunity, and conscious people are staying with us over the hour. So, but I think this is really a good question. So, John, do you want to just tell your own story?
Yeah, I again, everybody, my apologies. I got the time wrong. We went back to daylight savings time in the United States yesterday, so I'm chronologically challenged. Very briefly, I know you've been on here a long time. You know, about 3 or 4 years ago, we began to start to think about making Lowell a learning city, and very much through the help and friendship of Cork and the folks in Cork, including Denis and Siobhan. We have been on this journey for about 3 years. We've had 3 festivals of learning, but it's been an uphill struggle. We're trying to be the first North American learning city. Last year, the Trump administration suspended our membership of UNESCO, so our application to UNESCO stopped and was halted. But we've carried on with it, and very much I think that it's a part of what Lowell was and has been. We're a very famous educator in Lowell back in the 70s said he wanted to build Lowell as a city without a classroom without walls. And I think that was very much the idea behind what we're trying to do here. And we most recently had a very successful virtual festival of learning at the same time with that one in Cork. So I will catch you up on some of this later in the week when I get up earlier.
Thanks, John. Okay, so I see there's some other comments in the chat. We will be able to pick up on those. There's other examples on other websites there in the chat if you have a look. So someone is looking for the link for tomorrow. So maybe Karma or Seamus, will I hand over to you just to conclude and for me to say thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I'm happy to thank everybody for participating, and it was good, I suppose, that we had our president Balázs here first thing this morning, and Balázs is obviously a very committed Learning City person in Page, and there's very strong links now developing in Page and Cork, and I think this is, I suppose, this is the nature of the Learning City project. That the cities are very willing to collaborate, to share experience, to support each other. And I think this is a really important aspect of it as well. Thank you all very much, and especially the people in the US, right out as far as Minnesota, joining us. So I know it's very, very early morning for all of you. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you continue to participate for the rest of the week. The link, I think, is oh no, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe if somebody from the eucen office could maybe just put something into the chat there in terms of letting people know how they can join for the rest of the week, because we would really like you to continue the rest of the week. Tomorrow we're doing celebration, and we will be talking about Page and Cork. And then the following day we have the US experience, where Annalisa and John will be helping us. And I'm after losing myself now, Denis, but maybe you can remember some of the other days. But we've plenty of.
We're going to look at research later in the week as well, and there's some again in the chat. There's a note of the ASEM Lifelong Learning Hub, which is a new hub which Seamus has chaired. That is going to bring research together around that, and we'll have a panel discussion at the end of the week where some of the questions and themes and challenges. And I think some of you have asked some very good challenging questions today. So last word to Karma. I think maybe Karma, do you want to just say goodbye? Yes. Balázs is another example of a university leading a learning city. So we'll hear from Page tomorrow and during the week. So Karma, did you want to say?
Yes, maybe if I have the last word or the before last, maybe Balázs wants to say goodbye at the end, but I only would like to confirm that for tomorrow, for the presentations on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, there will be one link. It's going to be the same link. I will send it today in the afternoon. If I imagine that many of the persons who have joined us this morning will also be registered for tomorrow and the following days. If they are not, you can still register. Please send us a message or register. So you will get that link this afternoon, and it's going to be used for 3 days. And then on Friday for the panel will be a different link. Okay?
That's great. Thanks, Karma. So, as they say in the United States TV programs, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from...
Take good care. Take good care. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.